we are doing is we are taking as much scientific data as we can on sea turtles while we have the access to it on land, because as you know, sea turtles spend the majority of their life in the water. They are only on land when they hatch and make their way to the water, and then when the females come up to nest. Um, so we gather as much data as we can, and so what we do is we take a look at what all is in the nest. This tells us how many total eggs were laid, how many were hatched out of the total eggs, and how many were unhatched. With the unhatched eggs, even if we took them, put them in incubator, they are still not going to hatch. So for whatever reason, they did not fully develop and hatch like the brothers and sisters, and they will never hatch. So what we do with those is also learn from them. We have a researcher who studies the isotopes in the eggs, so we will collect any unhatched eggs and send those to the researcher to study. They're studying the isotopes in the eggs to see where the female turtle was foraging prior to her coming up and nesting on our beaches, so it gives us a good idea of where she has traveled prior to coming to visit us. Once the hatchlings make their way out of the nest, there are about 100 to 120 babies in each nest, and they all crawl on top of each other to make their way out of the nest into the water. So they are looking for nature's visual cues, which is a bright open horizon and away from dark, shadowy places. So ideally, they want to make their way out to the Gulf here and away from the dunes and vegetation on the beach. But unfortunately, artificial light does disorient them, and they will head towards light. And because that's what they're looking for bright open light, so they will be disoriented and head towards light instead of towards the water. So that is where we come in, doing our nighttime surveys to try to keep them safe, because once they are disoriented, they are completely disoriented, and we want to keep them from ending up where they're not supposed to. So if we do encounter disoriented hatchlings, we will collect them and release them on a dark private beach, because if we tried to release them at the nest site where they were disoriented, they are fixated on that light and they will crawl back towards the light even if they are right in the surf of the water. So we do what we can to keep them safe, but do as least interference with nature as possible. So once we finish with this, we will count the eggs, we record everything, we look at the nest depth from the top of the sand to the top of the egg chamber, all the way down once we finish to the top of the sand to the bottom of the egg chamber. These nests are about 18 to 20 inches deep. When the mama turtle comes up, she kind of buries herself in the sand and makes a body pit, and she will use her rear flippers to gently scoop out the sand and build her nest. The sand is very hard and compact around the nest chamber, but the sand inside is soft because it has been disturbed by her building the nest, and then once the hatchlings start to emerge, they disturb that sand as well as they come up. So once we finish, we will collect all the data, and we put all of the hatched eggs back into the sand, so that way it returns everything back to nature. The eggshells will decompose and provide nutrients back to the beach, and we cover everything up, remove our snakes, so you will never know that we or a sea turtle were ever here. Yes, ma'am.
How many times will one turtle lay eggs in a season?
In a season, she can nest about 5 times in a season, and they typically come back somewhere in the region of where they were born, so they may not come back to these exact GPS coordinates, but they do. We think that they have an internal compass, and they imprint on the beach, so we don't use metal around there, so that way we don't interfere with their magnetic fields and their internal compass. So they will come back somewhere in probably the Panhandle region to nest. We do have special loggerhead turtles here, that if you look at their DNA sequencing, they are special just to the Panhandle. So we do have a Northwest Florida special loggerhead species of turtles that nest here along our beaches. So we do everything that we can to protect them and keep them safe.
Yes, so cool. There's a lot of eggs in here.
You gotta be able to count, Nancy.
So we do put them in rows of 10 because
Good
we
thing
can
you're
count to
doing
10.
that, so I don't have to count. So.
John, you done figured out how many there are?
Oh man, what
Math
we got?
will you?
1, 2, 3.
Get your formula
As you
going.
can see, we do put them in rows of 10 just to make it easier for us to count, and when we photograph, it makes it easier to count them when we photograph them to look back at a later date as well.
There's a lot of eggs in there that hatched.
Yeah. Has she pulled out any that didn't?
Not yet. Oh yeah, there's 3.
All hatched on
But we don't have any babies.
so they are all happily
The
swimming in
nest we had just
Yeah.
before this was 3 babies.
Yeah, they've got them in the ice chest right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. They're gonna let them go sometime tonight.
Yeah.
Sargassum, which is floating vegetation, goes along with the current.
And we thought there was only 85 when we were out here that night.
Use that as their habitat. They can
Y'all got
hide
to
in
see 'em hatch?
We got to
That's
watch it.
awesome.
That's
It was
awesome.
fabulous.
And it will also
Everybody was out here ready to camp out for a long time, and they hatched, what, within
Yeah.
an hour after y'all got down here?
Well, we got down here about 7:30 and they hatched by about 9:30.
So you were here a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But they hatched within 30 minutes of me getting here.
Yeah, well, we got you out here just in the nick of time.
Anybody have any questions? No questions whatsoever.
We were lucky enough to be here when it happened, so we got all of our questions answered.
Wow.
Do different ways.
When you did nest number 1, the babies in the ice chest, were they at the top of the...
Throughout the chamber.
Okay, so, but you're not finding any. Yeah, so we're not going to have that here. Okay. Good thing you brought them with you. Thank you.
Into the nest as well. Yes. What do they eat? That is a very, very good question. Every species of sea turtles have their favorite foods, but they really like jellyfish, smaller fish, squid,
That's a good thing, I guess.
and green sea turtles. They tend to be more vegetarian. So we have turtle grass in the bays, so they will come up and feed in the turtle grass. So there's grass beds in the bays, and they like that green grass. The black ones. So those are the big loggerheads. Those are huge. Leatherbacks. Sorry. It's all over my head. I said the wrong thing. The leatherbacks. And their favorite food are jellyfish.
Excuse me.
And when you weigh about 1,000 pounds, you have to eat a lot of
Shot
jellyfish.
at these guys.
But
So precious.
Hey, George.
like plastic bags,
Hey, George.
in the trash can so that they're disposed of properly.